if you're a creative person and retirement is on the horizon and frankly you don't know what you're going to do with yourself all day, here are some artistic suggestions. Howdy Space Cats, it's me Jules. I've spent most of my career working as an illustrator and in the last decade or so writing and illustrating books for children. There has always been a creative thread running through my life for as long as I can remember. I'm about 10 or 12 years off retirement, but as somebody said to me just the other day, you never retire from life. So if you're a creative person heading in that direction too, let me ask you, what are you going to be doing with your time so that you don't retire from life either? I'm going to tell you my current plan in a little while, but here are some suggestions to get us started. If you have young grandchildren, why not think up a project to do with them? They can be any age. Even tiny babies can squish their little foot into some plasticine so that you can make a mould for a plaster of Paris footprint. Or, if they're toddlers, do some fun and free painting. If they're older, make a den, or if you're feeling really confident, a tree house. If they are teenagers, go on a hike with a picnic or make some balancing beach stone art. Make something for your home. It could be dried wild flowers in an arrangement, or strip down and paint a piece of furniture that has seen better days, or take up pottery and make yourself a mug or a plate, sew some new curtains, or make one of those whimsical little book nook scenes that goes on your bookshelf. There are so many things that you can achieve in your home. This idea will keep you going for ages. Painting using watercolour or gouache is a lovely way to spend a few hours. Even if you have never picked up a brush before, there are easy ways into it. Everyone can do this. Perhaps you've always wanted to write a children's book or a novel. Why not start seriously thinking about that now? You might fall into imposter syndrome, but just remember this. Your favourite authors were actually in the same position as you once. They weren't just born geniuses. They had to work at it and they had to have their first book published. So why not you? If you have an idea or a real passion for writing or illustrating, give it a go. And if you want to make a picture book, well, it would be very remiss of me not to mention the course that I made for people in your situation that gives you the lowdown on how I go about producing my own books, many thousands of which I've sold. And in the spirit of giving, here's a code for 50% off the course to get you started. The code is BLAST OFF. Make a scrapbook. It's such a great way to concentrate your ideas. You could pick a theme or even do one of your life so far. Find images that speak to you and cut them out and stick them into a nice scrapbook and then unleash your creative power onto it. You might use washi tape or ink stamps or pieces of ribbon or lace. Have a look on Pinterest for scrapbooking ideas. I didn't know I could crochet until I was in my 40s. I started off just learning how to make granny squares and sewing them together, but I taught myself how to make a mermaid blanket and I'm still wending my way through this blanket, which has been under construction for some years, and I will get it finished one day. After my initial lesson with a friend, I learned from YouTube. It's so easy to pause and go backwards if you don't understand something. It's very therapeutic, and at the end of the project, you will have something that you can use. Marvellous! Another thing that I've had a go at in the past is needle felting. And it's not a huge outlay to get started. I was inspired to make some teeny tiny teddies and some woodland creatures like badgers and squirrels. The one thing that you need to make sure you've definitely got, as well as the needle felting needles and some yarn, is a decent piece of sponge. Because you're going to be stabbing through the yarn into this and not into your knee, because that hurts. And also be very careful with your fingers, because that also hurts when you stab those. But you do live to tell the tale. Although it's some years off for me, I am already considering what I'm going to be doing with my time when I eventually do retire. I mean, my brain tells me I'm still 6 years old, but my body says you're about 600. There's been quite a few stressful years with ill health in the family, and I think that contributes to it, darn it. I'm finding making sourdough an absolute delight. I was a bit late to the sourdough baking craze during lockdown, mainly because I watched a video on YouTube that went through an intricate journey of how you can make sourdough over 24 hours. And there was so much pinching and stretching and twiddling. I just thought, my life's too short, I'm not doing that just to make one loaf of bread. However, I think I just watched the wrong video, because a couple of years later, probably about this time last year, I just decided I was going to give it a go, and I made a sourdough starter from scratch. And then I started making the bread, and now a year on, I think I might have just about cracked it. And it's so amazing to just have 3 ingredients, to just have salt, flour and water and whatever's in the air that makes the yeast, and then you have a loaf of bread at the end of it. And it is so much easier than making normal bread, because there's not 25 minutes of kneading. It's just a bit of a squish together to bring it all together, and then you leave it, and then you add your salt, and then you fold it so that you pinch it and bring it to the middle, and then you leave it like that for 6 to 8 hours, and then you come back and you give it a bit more squish and love, and then you let it prove, and then you shove it in the oven and bake it, and then you just eat it, and it's amazing. Anyway, as you can see, I quite like sourdough bread. Many years of being gluten intolerant and not being able to eat wheat because of my Crohn's disease, well, somebody once said to me, you know you can eat sourdough, right? I thought, no, I can't. Yes, I can. I'm probably going to be doing a bit of that and a bit of baking, because I really like baking buns and cakes and stuff like that as well. Maybe for my friends and family. And I really like going to the library and reading stuff that I haven't read before, doing a bit of painting. I like the idea of doing some pottery. Basically, when I do eventually have the time to retire, I don't think I'm going to have a spare hour, because there's going to be so much to do. Hopefully, you'll feel like that too. If you're a creative person, you can shove so much into your life. There's not much time for loafing around, really. Forgive the pun. Next week I will be showing you how literally anybody can use watercolour paints in a fun and free way. I'm off to moo at a moose. I will see you next week. Nanu nanu.